My name is Erica Briscoe. I'm a resident of Ward 7, and I'm here today because my life has been impacted by violent crime. As a young girl growing up in Ward 5, I was put in a situation where I had to care for my younger siblings. To do that, I had to rob people in order to keep my siblings fed and to meet our basic needs. Later, I had been Title 16. I've been involved with the law from all sizes and first-hand knowledge on how law enforcement impact our community. I was involved with a gang by the name of Check It, but I have been seen turn my life around and now run my own clothing line. I graduated from Project Empowerment and currently working in Career Connections program through Department of Employment Services. It is a great honor to be here today as we have open and honestly conversation with the mayor and each other about the selection of our next police chief and how to keep neighborhoods safe. I look forward to learning about a lot today, and I now like to introduce the Honorable Mayor, Muriel Bowser.
Thank you, Erica. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and I want to thank everybody who has joined in on the call this afternoon. We are in the beautiful Stewart Hobson Middle School in Ward 6, and I'm joined by a number of community leaders who, in all kinds of ways, are helping to keep DC safe and strong and participate in their own neighborhoods and in their own circles around issues that affect our public safety. So when I took office about 2 years ago, and I'm privileged that you have given me the opportunity to serve as your mayor, and I take very seriously and consider it my first responsibility to keep Washington, D.C. safe. So we moved quickly to take advantage of the best technology. We equipped our officers with body-worn cameras, and we established a very successful security camera rebate program. I also charged my team with developing the types of policies and programs that would help grow our police force, and we even launched a rapid response mechanism to support communities that are experiencing crime. Last year, we also took a major step in fixing our criminal justice system when I announced a partnership between the District of Columbia, our Office of the Attorney General, and the federal U.S. Attorney's offices to fund 8 new attorney positions to assist in the prosecution of violent crime in the district. But we know these are all pieces of a very complex puzzle when it comes to preventing crime and enforcing the law. Public safety requires more than just the police, as everybody around this table knows. Violence prevention requires the sustained support and contributions of all partners, including the family unit, the first unit, the community and faith-based organizations, and all government entities, our local ones and our federal partners too. So our continued work to strengthen the bonds of trust between law enforcement is also critical to our success in keeping DC safe. And that is the reason we know that we ended the year 2016 on a very strong note. Last year, we saw a 10% decrease in all violent crime citywide. We saw a 17% reduction in homicides and a 13% reduction in robberies. And to build on that progress in 2017, we're taking several steps to double down on what we know is working to make our city safer. For example, we recently announced enhancements to our police strategy, our patrol strategy. As part of this strategy, MPD is strengthening what we call sector policing, which will help create greater accountability and performance across the entire department. Not only will this new sector model improve transparency and lower police response times, It gives our police chief another important tool in grooming the next set of MPD leaders and grooming MPD managers so they know how to best serve neighborhoods. We're also doubling down on transparency and accountability with our police body-worn camera program. It is the most progressive in the entire nation, the most transparent of its kind. And at the end of last year, every patrol officer in MPD was equipped with a body-worn camera. And be assured that every new officer will also be equipped with a body-worn camera. We recognize that people are hungry for opportunity and people want to have the means to take care of themselves. So that's why we have had a tremendous focus in our administration on expanding opportunities. There's no greater crime-fighting tool than to make sure that everybody, no matter where they live, has the opportunity to get a great education and a good-paying job. So we have been focused on new types of job training programs. A new program we have called LEAP that trains D.C. residents for D.C. government jobs and vacancies in our government. Career Connections, another job training program that is certain positions set aside for young people that have been involved in the criminal justice system and gives them a second chance to get experience and to get permanent employment. We've also expanded our summer youth program. When I came into office, it was the eligibility for the summer youth program ended at the age of 22. We expanded it to the age of 24. We've also created a program for returning citizens to help them start businesses. And only in only a short few months, we have seen success in the Aspire program, like Project 500, a program we started to help entrepreneurs, and we focused on east of the river communities or underserved communities out of our office for greater economic opportunity. And that has been a tremendous help to all of us. So I've asked a number of people to join us who have been very focused on working to make neighborhoods safer in Washington, and they can speak very specifically about examples that they've seen in their own communities of how the government is working together with communities to keep our neighborhoods safe. And so I'm happy to hear from you about ideas that you have about working with the police on safer communities. Who'd like to start? John, just make sure you have a microphone near you.
Hello, my name is John Tenpei. I'm the chair of ANC2C, which is the Advisory Neighborhood Commission for the downtown Penn Quarter, Chinatown area. And one of the things that I found to be very successful in the neighborhood is police presence overall. The police walking around in the community, the police introducing themselves to the businesses and attending condo meetings. And that way the neighbors get to know the updated results of the police efforts, as well as share all their concerns. But also it takes the community to make an impact. So the community also has to be constantly looking out for themselves and calling the police and reporting wherever there are trouble spots. So those are the things that I found to be really useful.
Absolutely. So seeing more police and having police engage neighbors helps in every case. Terry, did you want to add something, or Samantha?
Hi, I'm Samantha Nolan, and for the past 16 years I've been helping MPD start Neighborhood Watch across the city. Neighborhood Watch has had a huge impact in that the community is working directly with the PSA, the Police Service Area officers, for a specific area. The neighborhood residents get to know who the officers are, and the officers know who the residents are, and they form a partnership for crime prevention. It's really community policing. What's really helped that as well are the camera program, putting more cameras on residents in alleys, behind homes. The video that coming from those cameras is going directly to MPD, which can be shown on each of the district MPD listservs. And a lot of the people involved in the crimes are identified by the residents within that neighborhood. And again, working with the police and the community together, the police are able to solve so many more of those crimes through the camera and through the neighborhood watch programs. So that has been very successful, and I hope it continues for a very long time.
Maria, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think I'd like to give an example of police involvement. By knowing the community, I think that my daughter came home one day. She's 21, and she was at one of the, night places here in town, and she was talking to one of the policemen, and the policeman, said, "Oh, who are you?" Blah blah blah. And anyway, long story short is that the policeman knew where I worked. They knew who I was. The next day, I was told that where she was, and it was a conversation. And so I think that goes to policemen getting to know the community. That's just a good example. But I think what's been successful is the police going into the schools and letting the schools know what it is that they do as policemen. What is the job as a policeman? What is the duty of a policeman? For the reasons of like what do policemen do, but also to incentivize some of these kids who want to be policemen and have a better and more positive perspective on who the policemen and what their jobs are. But getting involved in their sports, as opposed to what sometimes we see and we saw for many years as I grew up here, was the policemen were the bad guys, at the door, searching you, rather than helping you do your best as a student. So I think that those are very, very important things. Getting involved in the school system, because we see kids, we see that I've seen policemen, talk to me. These kids are just not graduating, and I say to them, you can be that catalyst to get kids incentivized to graduate and to go to college.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned police in schools, because one thing we know that one reason why we have over the years been able to build up a bank of community trust is because our police force is reflective of our community. And we have to work very hard to make sure that we are recruiting young people from Washington, D.C. to join our force. And last year, 2 years ago, I announced with the police chief and the chancellor of schools a partnership between MPD and DCPS. And we launched a public safety academy at Anacostia High School. So we are introducing young people to policing at an early age so that they can start making decisions to be on a path to join MPD. And what's great about this program is that they can then qualify for the police cadet program. And then another thing that we did this year was to expand the eligibility age for the police cadet program. And so now it matches our focus on young people for SYEP. So instead of stopping at 21, you can join the police cadet program now at the age of 24, up to the age of 24. And we know that's going to help us attract more DC residents.
And Mayor, we've got some questions on the line, but I do want to remind everybody, if you have an idea to share with the mayor, please do press 0, and we'll make sure that you can join the call. So Betty from Ward 8, Mayor, has an idea.
Great.
Betty, you're on the line.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, how are you today?
Fantastic.
Leave us alone. I love it.
Leave us alone.
But, yes, thank you. I love it.
I'll have to explain that to everybody later, Betty.
Okay. But where I was just identifying, I just know in the area of the District of Columbia, what I noticed that it's more cleaner. And they're cutting down the bushes, and DPW is out here. The crime is reduced.
Thank you.
So that's been a great, yes, that has been great over in Ward 8 and certain areas. And if we continue that, that would be even better here. Now, the second thing I was just thinking, if we can have our new chief of police to be more on hand, to come out and just occasionally, because I know your job and his job is the biggest job in the district. But just to come out occasionally and just give us that interaction where it's like he might can hear something, that would be great for the area. Third thing is that, third thing would be is that if we can have the patrol officers to stay in one area instead of them moving them around so much, because we don't get a chance to know who that PSA officer is, and that way he can learn each individual home maybe or the people that live in the area, and it can help reduce the crime by us keeping that same officer. If it's not officer is not doing their job, and then he can be held accountable for it. So these is my things, 3 criteria that I just had on the list.
Well, thank you
the
for that.
Environment part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, Betty. And you really hit a good point that is near and dear to my heart, and I know the hearts of people around this table, that clean and safe go together. When the government and communities have pride in their neighborhoods and insist on them being clean, we know that we have safer communities. So there's a lot that we have done and we will continue to do, for example, to get more clean teams across the city, but also do litter education and litter enforcement where it's necessary. You may also know, Betty, that I do community walks with my Mayor's Office of Community Affairs and Services, and we go out into neighborhoods where we know that we've had illegal dumping and insist that those areas be clean. We also, Betty, have a program called Alley Palooza, which I think has had a tremendous impact across the city in making sure we're cleaning up some areas and making needed investments in alleys that in some cases have been places where crimes can occur. And as far as the patrol officers go, I hear you loud and clear. And one advantage of the sector policing policy is that we're going to have a captain in charge of specific PSAs 24/7. We will continue to rely on our lieutenants to manage those PSAs and the officers. I think that you're going to see the kind of continuity from the beat officer to the lieutenant to a captain that has more responsibility that you're looking for. So you mentioned one important quality of the permanent police chief that you want to see. So why don't we talk about that a little more? Everything that we're doing around policing, of course, has a broad sweep, and the police leaders have a very important job, from recruitment to and retention, to understanding technologies and crime trends, to working hand in hand with neighborhoods, to working hand in hand with political officials. So the job is a tough one, but we are very lucky that we have been able to build up and invest in quality leaders here. And we also have the type of the department where people are attracted to and they want to be as well. So I want to commend our interim police chief, Peter Newsham, for the work that he has been doing and all of his contributions to the department. And I really feel strongly that we haven't missed a beat. And since we all appreciate the tenure of Police Chief Kathy Lanier, but I also think it's a great tribute to her leadership that the department is doing fantastically, and that is that's a good thing for all of us. But I want to assure you that our selection process for selecting a permanent chief of police is active and ongoing. And since all of the inaugural activities have finished, we have been interviewing candidates and narrowing down the list. And I would like to add that I am very proud that under Chief Newsham's leadership, MPD is continuously improving improving service delivery and responsiveness to district residents. But we also need your help to make this process fully robust. I'm joined by the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Kevin Donahue, and Kevin and his team, Deputy Mayor Donahue and his team, have been engaging some people around the table in small group discussions about what we need to move forward in MPD leadership going ahead. We have also just released a public safety survey, and we're asking for your input. And you can find a link to that survey at dc.gov. And paper copies of the survey will also be distributed next week to our recreation centers and police stations. So please spread the word and be sure to submit your responses. I did mine yesterday. It's really easy. You can do it on your smartphone in about 7 or 8 minutes. And we should probably be tweeting out the link so you can sign on to it now. So as I mentioned, as our city is becoming safer, we still have our challenges. And as much as we are pleased with driving violent crime down and homicides down and robberies down, none of us should be satisfied until we don't have to talk about murders in our city, or we don't have to talk about needless robberies in our city. And I think we were all reminded of the impact of senseless gun violence and what it can have on a community. I think last week I was pretty horrified to see, for example, in one neighborhood, 2 people recklessly using a gun resulted in an innocent woman's death. And her name was Vivian Morrow. And we still have not located Vivian Morrow's killer. And we know that many people know what happened and can help the police solve that crime. And so I hope that you will reach out to us at 202-727-9099. You can also use the MPD text line at 50411, 50411. So it's very important that we hear from you because when we have violent crimes and violent offenders, what also makes our community safe is that everybody is held accountable for their actions. So please participate with us there. So I wanted to turn to another set of questions about the effective policing strategies that you want to see more of. And perhaps we should turn to this side of the table. Imam, do you want to add anything about strategies you want to see more of?
Yes, again, Imam Sharif, here representing the Mayor's Interfaith Council. And we also represent the nation's mosque, Masjid Muhammad, 80 years here in D.C. And it wasn't always a good relationship 80 years ago, but we have seen it improve. And so some of the things we think would be more effective is that the law enforcement going into, we talked about schools, but want to also see more within the houses of worship, speaking, engaging, capturing those children, those families, doing seminars there, discussions about their jobs, so we can get a chance to see a little more, and also about the training, what they go through. And then outside of that, the other one would be, in fact, we did a program recently, Chili Cook-Off. We brought in heavyweight champion Larry Holmes. And we had a boxing, we had our youth doing 6 boxing matches, and it was in the community. And we just put out an invite to MPD. And we were so pleased that they came, they showed up. And didn't come up not to just patrol, but to be a part of it, taking photos with the population that was there. And then the youth really enjoyed the casualness of it, So we need to see more of that kind of interaction from our law enforcement as well.
Okay. Yes, Terry? Janine?
Yes, I'm Terry Janine Quinn, former chair of ANC 5E and president of the Bloomingdale Civic Association. And recently, I attended a meeting with Interim Chief Newsom, and he presented a very interesting demonstration related to the district's history of excessive force. And while I was disturbed by that history, I was incredibly impressed to see how the district got its act together and really worked very hard to turn that around, and which has been acknowledged by the Department of Justice. Where I believe there is still a gap is in, one, acknowledging that the damage that was done to the relationship with citizens, when you have a situation where there's an abuse of power, that's really damaging to those relationships. And I believe that that damage is still having effects on our ability to solve crimes today in terms of getting people to come forward, but also in terms of how people respond to the police. It's not a good thing for either the citizens or the police when people react in a way that demonstrates that they are in fact afraid of the police. And what I'd like to see us do going forward is to work on a comprehensive strategy to repair those relationships. And I think that what Imam Sharif has suggested is one good way of starting to rebuild those relationships. But I think rather than just trying to do that piecemeal, we really need a comprehensive strategy to do that.
I think that those are excellent points, and I want to thank you for sharing those. And many people around the table will remember, it sounds like what Imam Sharif points to, kind of the experiences I remember growing up, and how far our police department has come, where I can say that we have built a very professional force, where we're investing in training in the tools that our force needs, and we recognize that none of that happened by accident, and we cannot ever be satisfied with where we are, that we have to be constantly investing in it. I will say that I've never been more proud than last weekend with our police department and the interactions that we had with, I won't venture to say the number, but I think you saw on TV how many people came to DC for the Women's March. And the number of accolades that I have received on behalf of the department have been pretty tremendous, where you saw officers use excellent judgment, where you saw officers be excellent ambassadors for our city. And we want to constantly encourage those types of interactions. And so I appreciate the points that you made, and know that the police chief and all of the command staff and all of the officers also have to recognize that it hasn't always been that way in DC, and so we have to meet communities and people where they are. Yeah.
What I wanted to say was that I think we probably need like more of community engagement with the officers, just to let them know that they are here for safety reasons also, and it's a respect level instead of a look down level because of my position as an officer. And I think the more officer presence will let them know there's a sense of safety in our communities, and there's more of a brotherhood that probably can come together on the strength of them being there and showing that we're here for you also. So I think more engagement, community engagement with the officers can help things that's going on in the city.
Okay. Yes. Noah, did you have a question or a statement?
I would like to make a statement. Hi, name's Noah Dyson. I attend School of Fort Walls. I'm a senior, as well as I'm the founder of the Love Catalyst, a nonprofit organization that supports and advocates for youth with mental illness. And as it relates to what is a comprehensive plan into which we can build these community relations that we're speaking of, I think that you should really honestly put it in the hands of the youth. There are many youth in middle school and high schools who want this connection with their police officers, because in the past there hasn't been. But now that older generations, it's more difficult to change their perspective of the police. But the young, we're still growing, we're still learning, we're still interacting with our environment. And there are a lot of organizations that exist out there. One that I'm a part of, Operation Understanding DC. We host facilitations between anybody who wants it. We lead facilitations on race relations. We lead facilitations on unconscious bias. I think that if given the platform, if given the opportunity, that can produce significant results.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's important. And I asked Kevin to get me a statistic that I think is important. I've always looked at it as an advisory neighborhood commissioner, as a ward council member, and now mayor, as some indication of how well communities are working with the police. And that's homicide closure rates. And when violent crime happens in a community, I can't tell you how frequently people come forward to make sure the police have the information that they need. And we need community feedback to solve homicides in our community. And so we have seen in the last 2 years that homicide closure number go up, and it increasingly goes up. In 2015, for example, they closed 65% of the cases in 2015. And in 2016, it was 70%. Now, we like to see it be 100%, but those closure numbers are very, very significant. So I wanted to just put that on the table. I also wanted, and I will give people a preview of what they will find in the public safety survey, but I thought I'd toss out a couple of these questions here to get some feedback from you on that. For example, I'm going to give you which of the following police actions do you think are most effective in improving public safety? And we can talk a little bit about them. But here are the options. Enforcement of nuisance crimes like open alcohol container and marijuana use in public space. Increasing or improving police training. Responsiveness to 911 calls for service, improving police presence, improving community police relationships, solving violent crimes, improving the physical infrastructure, or targeting illegal guns, targeting illegal drugs, enforcing traffic laws, increasing the size of the police force. So those were a lot of options, but if you had to rate the top 3 things that were most effective in your view, what would they be? Enforcing nuisance crimes, increasing police training, responsiveness to 911, increasing police presence, and improving community relations, solving violent crimes, improving the infrastructure, targeting illegal guns, illegal drugs, or traffic laws, or increasing the size of the force.
I would just say that, I didn't memorize them all, but I think definitely the training of policemen. I mean, I see that there's plenty of it looks like there's an increase of new policemen coming on the force. I guess they're dressed in brown and the browns, and I'm assuming again that a lot of them are coming from some of them are coming from not from the District of Columbia, maybe from far away places, and so I think that training them on who the city is, who the makeup is, the cultural competence from all perspectives, from race to language to whatever, and also to your steadfast commitment to a sanctuary city, I think is very important. And I wear that hat, and I want to wear it right now. But it's very, very important that we all, as a community, stay together, as a brotherhood, as you said, that we support each other, wherever neighborhood we come from, wherever we come from. So thank you, Mayor, for staying steadfast to that. I also think that the training and the cultural competence, and I do think that we do need to make sure that we do when the law is not when somebody commits a crime, that it is solved rapidly, so that people have the confidence in folks in the police force. And so I think that those for me are important. And the guns, I mean,
That's right.
we're held, at the guillotine, right, by the federal government. But I think that there's an important piece that needs to be.
I got it. Anybody else? Samantha?
Just raise our volume a little bit so that everybody on the phone can hear us.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think that we're constantly encouraging people to call 911. But if they call 911 and nobody responds, or they're put on hold, or they're questioned in a way that makes them feel uncomfortable for making that call, we're actually discouraging people from calling 911. So I think 911 calls being answered and being valued by the operators as well, so that people calling in feel that they're being heard. You know, I get more comments about that than pretty much anything else on the street. And 911 is not a part of MPD. It's a separate agency. So, but we're partners, and that
Absolutely.
partnership has to work together. After calling 911, we want to see that those crimes are solved, and specifically the violent crimes. The more people see that there's actual punishment and that people will get caught, I think we send out the message that if you commit a violent crime in our city, you will be caught and you will be punished. Fewer people will, or more people will think about it before they commit a crime, and fewer people will commit the crimes. That may be a naive view, but it's one that I have. And I think, as several people around the table said, increasing community relations. That's, if people on the street know the officers, they're more willing to talk to them when something happens. If they only see officers knocking at the door making an arrest, the distrust is there, and they don't have a relationship really. So making that relationship in all of the ways that everyone around the table has suggested, I think it would be my next.
Okay, perfect. Lorenzo, I think you had one.
What I was saying was more like community relations, which you mentioned, and the training. I think it's the training of the officers when they interact with the people that's in the neighborhood, which cause a lot of problems sometimes. No respect, talk to them like they don't mean anything. So we can improve, if they can improve the relations with the officers, it can get things to go kind of smoother in the community.
Okay.
But they just want to know, they just want to know that they can count on them as for safety. So I say the training, the community relations can improve things all over.
Okay. Does anybody want to know what my number one is? Yes. No.
Hello, my name is Neil Matthews, and I attend Gallaudet University, and I'm here to represent the deaf community. One thing for the 911 response time, there's a huge delay. There's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of confusion. And with one 911 response, I think it's important that they're trained in how to work with the community, who is deaf. And, as a member of 2 different fire departments, there's a lot of confusion with 911 calls whenever you request a police officer, and then sometimes it's whenever you're requesting to have the fire department. So one thing, I think we need to have a stronger effect on the hearing community in D.C.
Well, thank you. Thanks for that, Neil. And thank you for your service. And we certainly are looking forward to working with you. And on 911, I'm glad that both you and Samantha raised that question because in the last 2 years, we have had a big focus on our 911 and 311 operations. We know for a fact that we weren't supporting the staff there well enough. And we also know that we just didn't have enough staff. I don't have to tell you how much our city has grown, but we hadn't hired 911 call takers in 8 years. And when I have open office hours, sometimes employees come to talk to me. And one of the number one issues I heard from call takers were they were stressed out and not supported well. We hired a fantastic director of our Office of Unified Communications. She worked as a call taker, dispatcher, director. She's done every job in a call center. And she has brought an incredible level of professionalism, empathy, understanding of the technology to the job. So we have made some changes to make those interviews more friendly. But we also, in hiring more people, have created time in their day for training and rest. And so we think that we are on our way to a better, to having those those dispatches, so the time a person is on the phone to the time help arrives, is steadily going down. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Kevin. And specifically, I'm going to ask the director to tell me what her strategy is for serving people who are interacting with 911 through various devices. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
we've got a number of ideas on the phone.
Okay, let's head
and
to the
we have a
phone.
few different questions as well. So I'm going to go to Linda in Ward 4. Linda, if you're still on, you should be able to talk now. Linda? Oh, you know what? Linda, now you can. Linda?
Hi, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. What's your question?
My question is if myself and the residents in my community wanted to get a camera installed in our neighborhood, how can we go about doing that?
Well, we have a couple of things. So I can ask your PSA lieutenant or the captain for your area to do an assessment if we need an overall crime camera. So I assume from your question that you're talking about one of the MPD cameras that they put up in areas where they have some real serious crime concerns. The other thing you probably heard Ms. Nolan mention earlier is that we've launched a private security camera program where the city will reimburse you. I think it's, who's going to give me the number? $500 for security cameras that you install on your home. And many people find that the technology around these cameras has improved so much that you can just go to your neighborhood retailer, pick up one of these sets of cameras, and pretty much be reimbursed for the entire cost. Up to $500, and it's working very well. I think that Terri Janine's community still has the record for having the most private security cameons installed.
That's right. We like to be number one in Bloomingdale.
Okay. So let me. Who's on the call? Linda.
Linda, but she's back listening again.
Okay, so Linda, we want to. So you're in the 4th district?
She's in Ward 4.
She's in Ward 4. So we want to put you in touch with either the commander in the 4th district or your PSA lieutenant. And you can go to mpd.dc.gov to find that information.
Do that. We've got another good idea from Ward 7 Mayor. Brenda is on the line.
Hi, Brenda. What's your question?
Yes, great day to you, Mayor. God bless you for rolling up your sleeves to do this.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you taking my call. I was actually trying to think on another level.
Okay.
As far as I know, security and everything is totally essential. And as far as our young youth is concerned, that's coming up now, we have so many people that's on the streets that has a lack of nothing to do. And I was just thinking that maybe we could start just donating some money back into the Boys and Girls Clubs and maybe build another skating rink on the inside in D.C., another bowling rink, something that'll give them social activity. And the police, they come through, they do their thing. They don't have to stay there or whatever. They just come through and show up, shoot a couple of baskets with them, hold a conversation and keep it moving, and just let them know that their presence are definitely needed, and it is important to them to actually show. I'm not trying to put it all on them, but, the social thing I think would be really, really important for the youth right now. Because they have nothing to do. And for the folks that, you have the school activities after school, you have the basketball, baseball, and things of that nature, but everybody is not that type of person. Okay, and we must face that. And we need to get them something more for social media instead of, them just depending on themselves to hang out and basically be bored. When you're bored, that's the devil's playground.
Right.
And we
Yeah, I think this is an area, and I'm glad you brought it up, that I think we need more partners around the table to weigh in on. And I'm gonna give you an example.
Yeah.
I was
Yes, ma'am.
a neighborhood where I lived for 15 years. I was the ANC commissioner, know a lot of the kids, a lot of the issues, and I was there one night after a very troubling incident, and I talked to probably about 15 young men. And they said just what you said. Now, they're standing literally across the street from a recreation center, directly across the street. But instead of going into the recreation center, they hang out in the alley. And so I'm trying to figure out with them how we can get them off the, out of the alley and into the recreation center. But then I go further into this conversation, and what I realize, these are adults, they're not kids. And the types of activities that we program in our recreation centers are around sports and computers and job training. But what in fact was missing was a place where men, young men, though they're adults, can have that social, that place to go. Now they're not going and hanging out at bars. I don't know why. Maybe they don't have the money to go out to restaurants and bars, so they want to stay in the neighborhood. So how can we fill that space? Now the government is never going to be the place where you can go smoke and drink and hang out with your friends, right? That's not what we have to have ideas, because that's missing. The caller is absolutely right. That is missing, but the recreation center and the Boys and Girls Club may not be that physical place, but we can generate some activities. So I'm just kind of interested, and I know Dr. Mitchell is here, who all of you heard from because he was the voice behind the call to your house. And I've also asked him, in addition to his regular duties, to help lead our government activities around the My Brother's Keeper program, so that we're coming up with different ideas that are outside of the box, as you say, but also very necessary. Anybody have any ideas around the social component of what we need to do in our neighborhoods that's not necessarily for the government, but necessary? You want to add anything, Iman Sharif?
Yes, we got to get to this concept, our community, our responsibility, where everybody, it's shared space that we all occupy. And of course, one of the ways to achieve that is, we had a powerful image in Ferguson when they had the riots, and then after the riots, at some point they brought in Captain Johnson. And of course, Captain Johnson was a part of the community, and of course, you see him beginning to hug the people, connecting with the people. And that just made a big difference in terms of how things had calmed down. So we can create space. Again, maybe some of the Boys and Girls Clubs have a lot more technical stuff because that's where the youth are at right now. But I can remember when I was growing up and it became on that adult threshold, some of the things that appealed to me were things like just being able to shoot pool, and we can talk and play cards. There's some of the things some adults like to do for that social piece. We don't have many outlets like that. Some of the things have been shut down. And so those kind of social spaces, and we got to keep the law enforcement element involved to it becomes a part where we see them as the community, not someone coming into the community in opposition to those who are in the community, but are part of the community. If we can create those kind of spaces, we begin to see much more harmony in our community and more productive life and healthy life as well.
Okay. Do you want to add something, Samantha?
As it speaks, being a youth, growing up and living in D.C., as you speak on, in my neighborhood, Greg, I believe the one you mentioned actually, the pool table was removed, the ping pong table was removed. So things such as resources provided to the rec centers to provide more geared towards older teens, as well as relates to community responsibility. So an organization that I know of, Learn Serve International, allows the resources and teach teens in high schools how to implement change in their community. So that was a more public, more that can be based in a rec center and Boys and Girls Club. Give youth the resources needed to say, hey, I would like to start this in my neighborhood. How can I do this? After you provide the resources, then just allow our passion to guide us then. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And we are exploring ways to push our programs at the grassroots level. And one thing that we were able to do as part of our Safer, Stronger agenda and a supplemental budget that I moved through the council at the end of 2015 was to explore all different ways to, like, if a young person has an idea, for example, and may need some resource support, how can we have that young person partner with an established community group? We'll even fund the idea if we think it's an idea that will help activate people in a way that traditional programming hasn't. And so we called that our mini grant program. We just, I think this week, funded our second round of mini grants, and we focused on our police service areas where we were seeing the most troubling violent crime, and we have seen decreases in each of those police service areas because we've thrown a lot of different strategies there. So I think you're absolutely right, Noah, that we can, when we are willing to be nimble as a government and support less traditional or non-traditional ideas and work with grassroots organizations, even if they're not formal ones. If you have a good idea, we want you to come forward and we'll partner you with what we call the fiscally responsible agent. But really what that is a trusted and effective community partner that is willing to work with people who have less traditional ideas. Yes.
One idea that right now is not possible is with the wellness centers, right? So we have a wellness center in every ward, and right now it's strictly only the elderly can go in there.
You're talking my language now.
Okay.
The city administrator is going to get, just be on notice.
So, and I think that, of course there's a couple of elderly people who are like, I don't want to see anybody younger than 65, but most would say that they would love to see the young people in there, would love to interact. Storytelling. There are many young kids who don't have their grandparents here in town, whose grandparents have died. The storytelling, the quilt making, the whatever, religion, whatever, exercise. Every wellness center has a exercise place, a gym.
Yep.
And it's hardly used by the elderly, so it could be a place. I also would just challenge, like, we have amazing theaters in the city, in not every part of town, but in some parts of town, and opening up those theaters. Some of those are huge, and they have plazas that go into them, and so I would challenge that we should open those to see, and and some of those theaters are not doing very well, because now everybody has, they can see their videos at home. So opening up that, so those were just two places, and I think I challenge you, Sir Imani, House of Prayers, I think too. I mean, I know that you do a lot on around the prayer piece, but maybe we can incorporate prayer with fun, with a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be smoking and drinking, but a lot of other fun. So thank you.
Yes, Lindsay.
Mayor, we've got Tyrone on the line, and Tyrone was involved with the juvenile justice system in his youth, and I think he might have some ideas for you, if you don't mind repeating your question about the youth.
Yes.
Tyrone, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, hi, Tyrone.
Yes, yes. I don't have a question per se, but I do have some input that I would like to share, if it's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Like I said, I'm a former juvenile offender as well as an adult offender. And I'm very much familiar with the workings of the criminal mentality in ways that a lot of people don't have a clue. I'm talking beyond textbook stuff. And I said all that to say that what I've been hearing is a lot of reactionary measures, which, don't get me wrong, anything helps. But we need to get to the core of what is going on that's requiring all these reactionary measurements. The police presence, the signing of prosecutors and so forth. We need to get to the core of the matter. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of it. What is causing, what is requiring all these measures to be taken in the first place, and that is that the fact that A lot of this activity is going on because a lot of our youth are caving into the influence of negative peer pressure. You know, you can have all the rec centers in the world. You can have all the police presence in the world. And I know for a fact that a lot of the youngsters that are out there in those activities, to be honest with you, they look at the police presence as a joke, basically. They if you're in the D.C. area, you know what joning is. They sit around and they joke about it. You know, like what is Officer Finnegan supposed to be doing? Because we're not getting to the core of it. You know, we have to get into what's causing these activities. And if you don't get into the cause of it, then you're going to continue to heap massive resources toward reactionary measures.
Well, Tyrone, I want to let me just jump in, and I couldn't agree with you more. That is certainly not just a police matter when you talk about public safety and letting young people know that we care about them. We're going to make investments in them. We're going to put policies in place that will give them access to opportunity. Our commitment to the schools is real, and we have to make sure that every young person has access to a quality school in their neighborhood. And one thing that we know is effective is giving kids more time in school. So last year, for example, we extended our school year. And so at 11 schools in Washington, D.C., they start a little bit earlier in August. And we know that school is a safe place where learning happens. And we know that as one very effective strategy, for example, for moving kids where other strategies haven't worked. But it's also a reflection on how much this community cares about kids advancing. The earlier we get them in school, the longer we can keep them in during the school year, and making sure that we're supporting our teachers, we have quality facilities, and they have a high quality curriculum is part of our focus. I already talked about job opportunities for young people who may have been disconnected from school and work for any number of reasons, and we are going to continue to be focused on that as well. So thank you for your call. I think we may have time for one or two more, and then we're going to talk about next steps.
Sure. Bill from Ward 4 is on the line, and he has some ideas.
Hi, Bill. What are your ideas?
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. I'm Bill Hassan. I'm the co-chair of Brandon Todd's Public Safety Commission.
Okay.
We've been working very hard with Man Lopez, and I had an opportunity with Deputy Mayor to look at the new police chief that they're trying to hire. But I'll just cut to the chase. We've been working very hard to get upgraded lighting in my PSA, and we've had a great response to that, and it's helping us tremendously. But we need to have the rest of that done, number one. Number two is that we've been able to abate a lot of criminal activity at night with the use of the ROSA program. And so I wish that we could get them to be just a little more aggressive, because we have criminal elements that are beginning to commit a lot of crimes at night with out-of-state cars with out-of-state license, and ROSA could be a little more aggressive with that.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Hassan, and thank you for your work in Ward 4. And lighting is a big deal. I think you heard the first caller talking about the impact that the environment can have on crime. And so we've done some hidden, I think, some scattered upgrades to lighting across the city. The truth is, the real lighting plan for the city hasn't changed in 100 years, and so or more than that probably, and we're working on that. So members of my team, my Office of Public-Private Partnerships, for example, are going out to ANC meetings now to talk about how we plan to change all 70,000 streetlights in Washington, D.C. And so if you want some more information about that, we'll get that out. But it is it sounds like a big opportunity, but the fact is, once we find the right partner, we will be able to change all the lights in the city in fairly short order.
We've got one more question, one more idea here from Annie, who's in Ward 6. Annie, you're on the line.
Hi, Annie. What's your idea?
Hi, this is Donna. How you doing?
Hi, Donna.
Okay. I was just talking to the gentleman in reference to the neighborhoods. We have more police, which is great. I've seen more, police interacting with people in the neighborhood, and I think they are more prone to be able to talk and communicate with the policemen that get friendly with them, on bikes as well as in cars.
Great.
I also have a nephew that's a D.C. policeman.
Great.
And so...
Do you have any more nephews or nieces?
Yeah.
Okay.
That want to get on?
That's right. Let's sign them up.
I'm going to try and see if I do. I'm going to see.
Okay.
Maybe in the future we might have a few. I have one other nephew. They're like 7 now, so they've got a ways to go. But anyway, the one that isn't, he's dynamic. I'll just say that.
Okay.
You probably, you haven't met him. You may meet him in the future. But anyways, the other thing is that I was talking about was that the crime of the investigations of the homicides, the deaths in D.C., that I think that people or the people that are in charge of investigating, they should not just put them on hold. Like mine, I have one that's a cold case that actually they never did anything about it and haven't solved it. And basically, my mother and I investigated the case. I timed everything. I just went and did an investigation of the whole scene. And I even talked to the person that was with my relative that died, that got killed. And I think they're the one that killed him. But, like I said, nothing was never done. It was never solved. It was never, stamped. The case was closed because it was solved. And I think that they should do more in trying to get these homicides solved.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, and I know that Chief Newsham agrees as well as all of our police leadership. We want to send the strong message that nobody will get away with a violent crime in the District of Columbia. And while we know that the 70% closure number is good that I just reported to you, it's not good enough. And so we want, you have my commitment to making sure that MPD has the detective resources they need to solve violent crime. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for calling about that. And one thing that's been, and it's interesting that you raised this point now, one thing that has been effective for us is that I asked the council last year for additional authority to hire senior police officers. So these are police officers who may have retired. Police officers can retire at age 50 with 25 years of service. But we were concerned about losing the experience of detectives who we need to solve these crimes. And so I asked the council to expand my ability to hire retired detectives in the senior police officer program. And we know that's going to be helpful for mentoring new officers, but also having that experience in solving crimes that are before us. So I want to thank everybody who has gathered here at Stewart Hobson and everybody who has listened on their phones or on Facebook or on Channel 16, and thank you for participating in the call. I also want to acknowledge all of my staff who are here, who put a lot of hard work into making sure we could be talking today. So thank you, Lindsay Parker, who's my Deputy Chief of Staff, but also my public safety team, who's led by Deputy Mayor Donahue, and everybody who's not here from the police department and the fire department. Our medical examiner is here, who chaired with Dr. Nesbitt our Safer, Stronger advisory team. So I want to thank them. The city administrator joined us as well, who is now working with all of the departments on our budget, which we will submit to the council in early April. So part of everything that we talked about has a budget implication, and it's important for me to have these conversations to make the argument for the things that not only we need in our public safety cluster, but all of the education and job resources that we need as well to keep our city safe. So with that, I want to remind you, you may have received a tweet from us to participate in the public safety survey so that we can hear from you about what you think are important policing strategies, what qualities you want to see in our next police chief, and how we can just generally make this the best city in the world. So thank you all for your time and attention.